Okay. Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? My name's Aaron, and I work here at GoTo10 with the events and the live streams. So I just want to tell you a little bit about GoTo10 for those who've maybe not been here before. This is a free co-working space and event space. So if you'd like to come here, we're open from 8 o'clock till 4:30, Monday to Friday. You're welcome to come and use facilities. You've become a member. We have meeting rooms. We have a podcast studio. We have some 3D printers, and we have a cafe bar here as well. So you're very welcome. If you have any questions or you want to ask me about the place, please just grab me after the event, and I can talk to you about it. Yeah, so that's a bit about the place. It's free space. You're welcome to join. And yeah, I hope you enjoy today's event. I'm going to pass you on to Frederick, who's going to talk about today's event. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Hello, my name is Frederick Larsson. I'm from Linköping Science Park. Oh. Please stand here. And we're hosting this event today. We're very glad to see all of you here. A lot of known faces, but also some new, and that's always great to see, I think. And we're also happy to have this great lineup from the embassy, from Business Sweden, from different Indian friends, Sipship, so on. And we're looking forward a lot to hear what India and what you have to offer. And then I leave it to Cecilia, I think.
Yes, thank you so much. Actually, Sara, you will start, right?
I'm heard without a mic. Where there it goes. Okay, great. Good morning, all, and it's great to be here. To meet you all. Fantastic to see so many people on a Tuesday morning join us for this morning breakfast seminar called Time for India. And that's why we are here. We believe it is, well, time for India, to look at India, look east, to see what all the opportunities that country offers for companies and for individuals and organizations that want to operate in an exciting market. This year, or every year rather, the Swedish Chambers of International, I represent the Swedish Chamber of Commerce India, my name is Sara, but the Swedish Chambers International, which is an organization gathering all the chambers around the world, together with Business Sweden and together with our embassies, are conducting a business climate survey. Looking at where we ask Swedish companies abroad how they perceive doing business in different markets and where they are. This year, 1,600 companies from 23 countries responded to the survey. And it's quite interesting because India stands out. It is the country where the business climate is the most favorable. The companies in India, 86% of them say that the business climate in India right now is very favorable. It's the highest we've ever measured on the 12 years we measured there. It's also so that India, together with Canada and Brazil, are the countries in the world where companies are looking to invest the most in the coming 2 years. And the companies, Swedish companies in India, are amongst those that say they are the most profitable. 70% there say they run a very profitable business. So it's time for India, and we do this survey. I want to highlight that because we are going to come back to this survey during the time. I'm going to give you some statistics from it. But we do this survey also then in India with a lot of questions. And it's here for you to grab afterwards as well. 214 Swedish companies responded to it, 87% response rate. So it's quite a good statistics from that part. So there we are. Over to you, Cecilia.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I have to stand here because I will be the one driving the PowerPoint presentation. But this year is a very exciting year for all of us working in India. It's we're celebrating 75 years of bilateral relationship. However, Swedish industry has been in India much longer than that. Ericsson entered the Indian soil already in 1903. So we do go way back. We have a very steady relationship. And when we talk about India, India is a country, we all know that. However, India is large and huge. It's almost like a continent in itself. So to make businesses in India, it both has lots of opportunities, we'll talk about that today, but there are also challenges. And to give you the fair and nuanced picture, we will touch upon that as well. We are all here from Team Sweden today, and we are here to really be able to give you maybe not a deep knowledge, but at least snapshots from many different areas. And this might be able to help you to also analyze what doing businesses in India will actually mean for you and your company.
And when we say Team Sweden, we mean the Embassy of Sweden, based in New Delhi. We mean the Consulate General, based in Mumbai, Business Sweden, and the Swedish Chamber of Commerce. We all work on ground in India. We are also here then today, joined by SIBC, the Swedish India Business Council. There you are, so sorry. I was looking for your face, Harti. That works here in Sweden with companies as well, looking into India. It's great to be that many, so you will hear many of us from today as well and see our faces, which is good for you if you want to take conversations forward.
Exactly. So it's really time for India. Sara, you never mentioned, but this is the second time we're doing this. We did it 2 years ago, and I can tell you we feel a completely different buzz this year. It is really time for India right now. So with those words, we would like to invite our dear ambassador, Mr. Jan Teslev, ambassador from Sweden to India.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone.
Yes.
I think it's only in Sweden that it would work to have this kind of dot on the floor. I'm used to moving around a little bit, so we'll see how disciplined I will be. I'm extremely excited to be here today, and I will tell you where that excitement comes from in just a little bit. Cecilia said that well, it's time for India, for Sweden and India. And somehow this is India's time. I think it was said when we had an event the other day that this is a country, India is a country of eternal potential. I think that my predecessors and Cecilia's predecessors, everyone have talked about the potential of India. India is rising, India is coming, India is growing. As you know, it's the most populous country in the world. We feel now, and I think we can not only characterize it as a feeling, but it's actually, we can substantiate it. The potential is translated into reality. And we see that on the ground. We see it not only in economic terms, we see it in political terms. And I said I was excited to be here this morning, but you see it also when it comes to innovation. You see it when it comes to science. You see who is coming to India and why are they coming to India. People are not going to India to manufacture cheap products. They're coming to India for a huge market in India, domestic market, but also for the world market. People are coming to India to develop products, co-create products, concepts together with India. So, as Cecilia and Sarah said, 75 years of diplomatic relations. When we wanted to celebrate this jubilee, we thought we would put a subheading to this jubilee. And the subheading that we united around was Swedish innovation made in India. And that's very much what it is about. We celebrate 75 years, or in the case of Ericsson, 120 years, in the case of SKF, 100 years, in the case of Volvo Group, 15 years, etc. All these jubilees. But we want to look forward. We want to see what are the coming 25, 50, 75 years going to bring. And that's actually let's say, the stepping stone that we want this Jubilee to be. Team Sweden has already been introduced today. There's also a Team India. A strong Team India, of course in India, but also in Sweden. I think it's quite unique that we have such a support group for our relations, be it in science, be it in education, be it in business, be it in politics. That's also something we should treasure and really quite unique. We are going on a tour of Sweden. This is our first stop outside of Stockholm. We are continuing this afternoon to Malmö. It's almost like, you know, going like Beyoncé or something. We are moving around. I don't know who is Beyoncé of us, but and then we are ending up in Gothenburg, and then we'll in an investment seminar in Stockholm at the end of the week. So this is really an intense week for us. But to be here in Linköping today, I think is something that is highly symbolic, because this is a city of what I just mentioned, of innovation, of research, of high-tech Swedish industries, successful industries. I've already met some of you who represent those industries here, and I'm sure that some others might join that ecosystem. So to focus on the innovation aspect, I know that Per-Arne, who is heading our Science, Technology and Innovation Office in Delhi, will bring you into that, the jungle of innovation that we are cultivating between our two countries. I would feel more nervous and more shy if I didn't have my colleague with me. I have Sven Östberg with me, who is our new Consul General in Mumbai. It's such a huge country, so many different states within India, that we really need to have these different poles within the country. Business Sweden has a successful, very active office in Bangalore also, just to show you what is our infrastructure on the ground. But Sven, you took up your post just a few weeks ago. I'm very happy to make this first tour with you. I was going to say I'm going to give you my microphone, but I will not. But I will give you the floor. So Sven, welcome.
Thank you, Jan, for that kind introduction. Okay. Good. Well, hello, everybody. What a wonderful crowd we have today. Thank you. As Jan said, I arrived in India, in Mumbai, 2 weeks ago. And actually, since we are all talking about celebrations, the Consulate General in Mumbai is actually also celebrating 10 years of existence. The Consulate General is a small team. We have 9 people working at our office, but it's a very good team. Our main task is trade and investment. We exist to support Swedish businesses in India and to help to promote Indian businesses going to Sweden. To get that best possible results, we work together with the embassy, the science office, Business Sweden, the chamber, and also you. We call this Team Sweden. My district is Western India, the states of Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Goa. More than 180 million people live there. Maharashtra and Gujarat are the 2 most business-friendly and richest states in India. They are also leading investment destinations. I'm obviously based in the financial and commercial capital of India, and we also have the added value of having being the place where many Indian movies are made in Bollywood. So I'm looking forward to starring in some of the new films. Many Swedish companies are actually manufacturing in Maharashtra, like Atlas Copco, SKF, Sandvik. but also other companies are present there. IKEA has 3 stores in Mumbai. Spotify and Storytel have their Indian headquarters in Mumbai as well. The big business conglomerates like Tata, Reliance, Mahindra, and L&T are all headquartered in Mumbai. These billion-dollar business houses are my other important target group. I target them to support Team Sweden's work to promote Indian investments to Sweden. This is a long-term work. We want to increase the number of Indian companies in Sweden. Now we have a presence of in Sweden by Tech Mahindra, Tata Consultancy, Infosys Technologies, HCL, Larsen & Toubro, etc. But we want to have many, many more. The Consulate General can, together with Team Sweden, help contacts, advise and troubleshoot in Western India. We exist to support Swedish companies in India and to promote Indian investments to Sweden. Please do use us and my presence in Western India to help you make more business in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sven. So before we zoom in even more into India, I'd like to just give a picture of India in the global world today. India will be one of, if not the fastest growing economy in the forthcoming years. And the GDP growth this year is expected to be 6 to 7%. And in the first couple of months, we've seen a mind-blowing growth of 7.8%. Remember, we just heard Sweden's GDP growth was minus 0.8%. So it is really happening in India right now. There are some signs of slowing down because of export to the rest of the world, which is then not so favorable as it has been. But still, I think we will keep at least 6% as a level. So India is on the route to become the 3rd largest economy already 2030. And it is really making steps towards emerging as a powerhouse, both economically but also strategically. So as we hear, it's really bustling in India. And what are the reasons for that? There are many, many reasons, but just to give you a snapshot of that, it will soon, 2030, have the 3rd largest consumer base, very much thanks to the growing and expanding middle class. So what we see is a triple figure from $2 trillion today, 2022, until $6 trillion US dollar consumer-based market in just a few years. We can also see that there is a lot of talent in India. India produces no less than 2 to 3 million STEM graduates per year. And I'm sure here in Linköping you are very aware about the term STEM, science, technology, engineering and math students. So it is a huge pool of individuals who will definitely be a great resources for all the Swedish companies who are interested in establishing their operations in India. And Prime Minister Modi has promised $1.5 trillion US to be spent on infrastructure only. And to mention a few things that we already see, every year 11,000 kilometers of highways are being built. It is really, really visible. I came to India first time 2006. Going to Agra to watch the beautiful Taj Mahal was, honestly speaking, because it took a day just to go there. Now you can go back and forth in a day. The highway is better than any highway from Stockholm to Linköping, I promise you. It's wonderful. We also see a lot of rail being built, no less than 4,500 kilometers of rails being built every year. Maybe most impressive, 75 airports were there 10 years ago. Today, India has no less than 150 airports. And I'm sure you've read in the newspaper that quite recently, Airbus and Boeing got some orders for 1,000 airplanes. Just, of course, it's not going to be delivered next week or even this year, but in a couple of years' time at least. So I will not quote you there, Ambassador, but I think our Swedish aircraft system will have to do a little bit more investment in the aircrafts. Also, India, as we know, has an extremely fast payment solutions. Actually, one of the fastest in the world. They have immediate payment service, but also unified payment interface. And they are enabling no less than, I think by now, it's about 100 billion digital transaction annually, which is the highest in the world. So quite impressive. When it comes to green transition is a very important area for India as well. Modi has promised that the country will be climate neutral by 2070. Could sound a little bit far off, but imagine it's this continent that is actually changing something amazing. And I have to say that when we meet Indian companies, they are actually far more aggressive than that. Many of them have a target of becoming carbon neutral already 2035 or at least 2040. And they have set a target of 500 gigawatt fossil-free fuel already by 2030, and that is actually 50% of the energy requirements of the country by then. As also worth mentioning, the position of India in between East and West. The geographical location is actually, it's a very strategic advantage for India. And it gives a great transfer between the Eastern and the Western hemisphere. And also the very long coastline with a lot of different ports is very favorable for India.
I lived in India for 20 years, and for me, India has always been about the people. And it's a great place to be in for all the relationships that are there. But India, 2 million STEM graduates a year. When we look at Swedish companies and what they're saying be the greatest competitiveness angle or advantage of being in India compared to global value chain, human capital is on top. And 65% of the population in India is below 35 years of age. 50% below 50. 50% below 25. Demography is a really important factor in this.
Yes, so let me take you up on that. If we look here in Sweden, most people born today will celebrate their 100th birthday. But not long ago, 70 was quite a respective age. So the fact is that the population of the Earth is just getting older and older. It's excellent because then that way we can keep competence longer. But if we think about it, older people also brings more care and more hospitalization. So in 1960, the older population made up 5% of the total population. 2050, it will be 24%. So in North America, Europe, but also East Asia, they are expected to have, of course, the highest life expectancy by 2050. While Africa, South America, but also South and Southeast Asia, where of course we have India, are expected to have the highest growth during those years. And in India, we see every day an increase of older people. What I see with that is a huge opportunity for all the Swedish businesses in this sector. So both then in elderly care, but also all across life science. From 2020 to 2100, we expect that the world's population will increase by 32%. It means that 10.5 billion people will live on the earth end of this century, quite a lot of people. So a growing population that increases the demand for natural resources, such as energy, but also water, and alongside an increase in all the negative factors, such as pollution and health risks. So a rapid population growth contributes to a rapid growth in the number of people working. And a rapid growth in the number of people working, of course, leads to an increased GDP. And India's working age population is expected to increase by 32% from now to 2050. It's quite amazing if we think about that, comparing then to China, where almost the same amount of people in a working age will decrease. So an increased working age population, it means, of course, a window of opportunity for demographic dividend, but also accelerated economic growth. But it's quite mind-blowing to see how many more people will actually be able to take care of the economy in India in the coming years. And then think about how many fewer will there be in China to take care of all the large amount of older people coming. Another aspect of this is urbanization. What we see in APAC for the coming years is a huge urban migration in the whole region. And in India alone, the population living in cities is expected to be increased by 80% until 2050. And the three major cities in India which will really see this growth is Delhi, Mumbai, but also Kolkata. Here we will see an increase of 30% in the total population in each of these cities. Today, India has 6 megacities. A megacity is a city with more than 10 million people. In just a few years, there will be 10, and this will continue to grow. So, with urbanization, we see a lot of concrete issues, especially for people's life. We need definitely cities that are livable. For the inhabitants to continue to be productive, they need to be healthy. So there must be schooling, there must be housing, there must be infrastructure, but also things that we take for granted, clean water and clean air. So here, of course, with this increased, and especially with the fast growing cities, we can see that there's a lot of challenges coming, and there will always be a need for improvement in urban development, but also in the way we treat sanitation, and also we might need to think about how to more efficiently use the resources that we have. So hence, I would definitely say this urbanization that is happening in India is also a huge opportunity for Swedish companies. I think here we need to see Swedish companies that continues to co-develop and cooperate with India for localizing the solutions. So definitely here is also an area where innovation is needed.
Innovation is needed, and innovation is happening in India. If we ask the Swedish companies, 71% say that the innovation ecosystem that they operate in is very positive and productive for them. That's an increase from 21 when we asked the same question, where 60% said the same thing. 50% of the companies report the innovation or innovative partnerships they have, if it is with academia or with suppliers or other industry. I'm a bit messy. And other industry players. turn into business opportunities. 50%. 75% say it will be. We think so, it's going to be a business. In 21, 25% said they had business opportunities. So we see a maturity, we see a growth in the innovative ecosystem. And it's also one area where Swedish companies feel that India is very competitive in global value chains. 43% consider the innovation system very competitive compared to global value chains. I give you the statistics. The insight into the innovation ecosystem is for Per-Arne, the counselor and head of the Office of Science Innovation. The titles, my friends, are very long here. Over to you, Per-Arne.
Thank you. So hopefully this one works. First of all, I just want to say that I'm so happy to be in Östergötland, Östgöte för tjuven. So I come from Norrköping, so I have a complex relationship with Linköping, obviously. But I mean, this is one of the, I would say, the diamonds in Sweden when it comes to the startup scene and how you work with innovation. So I'm very happy to be here. I actually also studied at Linköping University, and I did my military service here. So I'm one of you, definitely. And now I'm the Counselor for Science and Innovation to India, and a very proud such as well, since we have such a great product to bring to India. Sweden is considered to be a qualitative partner in many ways, both in terms of innovation as such, but also, of course, when it comes to sustainability-related aspects. I think I have a slide here. I would like to just tell you briefly about what we are up to, and also invite you to come to India and work with us, because I think based on everything that you've heard already, by now you know that this is the place to be at the moment, and especially if you're interested in my areas, science and innovation. It's the opportunities are huge. I can just tell you, just give you an example of when I've been there for 2 years now, and all the time I just get my mind blows when I meet with different actors. I think this was like 9 months ago or something. We were supposed to go to a famous incubator in close to Delhi, and something happened, so we couldn't go there. And then my colleague, my local colleague, she's from Delhi, she said, well, we can go to my home university and visit them, because and we had to make a quick decision. And so we did. And we ended up at a place, and I mean, as I told you, I think this is one of the diamonds of Sweden when it comes to the startup and the innovation scene. That one would be in size 5 times this one. And I know that, I remember one figure, and that was that for each of the new startup position that you could get an office there, you would have about 500 applicants for that. And they owned, I mean, for one office space. So you can understand the competition. And I can tell you, all the support that they provided is better than the Swedish support that they get. So, and that is the kind of experience I get all the time. And even, and also, I mean, if you go to Hyderabad and go to T-Hub, have anyone been there here? Yeah, my team. But if you go there, you would understand that there are also places that are almost like going to Disneyland if you're interested in innovation and science, because you get everything. It's huge. So India is the place if you want to go to a place where the infrastructure is already in place when it comes to science and innovation. And what we're trying to do, we're building on all these, I mean, like more than 100 years of collaboration. We have diplomatic relations with India since 75 years back. So and the brand, the Swedish brand, is very strong. This slide that I'm showing you is actually an agreement between Sweden and India in terms of science and innovation. It's a partnership for a sustainable future, and it states different areas where we are supposed to collaborate. So you have all these. This is like a card that I can wave, and all the doors in India opens, because it's quite difficult. It's a very competitive environment at the moment. But this agreement is extremely valuable for us, because we can enter rooms that we couldn't do otherwise. So you would see here smart cities, green energy, smart industry, AI, new materials, space, circular economy, health and life sciences. All these areas we can just contact municipalities, regions, states, companies, and it's an okay on that one. And it's from, when you look at it from the Indian side, it's from Modi and the government. Okay. So, and here you have the different activities where we engage. So we have research and innovation collaboration, we have incubator collaboration, and various of activities that where we engage. And here you can see some of the Indian publicly funded organizations engaged in this. And here you have the Swedish ones. And I'm sure you know most of the Swedish ones at least. So there is an infrastructure in place. The only thing that we need to think about is that it's happening now. We have to be there. So I really want to urge you to come to India and collaborate with India. We are in a race, and we need to be first there if we want to continue being a strong nation. I would just like to also mention that there are a couple of interesting calls coming up. Vinnova, they have a one that is where the deadline is next week, actually, or in 10 days. Also, Stint, they have another one on research and mobility, also in 10 days coming up. I know that they will have, Vinnova will have one in December. We also have a delegation trip. I will meet with the Linköping University, which I also used to study there, so I want to bring them to India as well. A delegation trip in late November, where they will get to meet with these environments and contexts. So there are a lot of things going on, and I'll be here to answer if you have any questions about these trips, of course. And with that, I think I stop here.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Per-Arne. Okay. So, Per-Arne, working with science and innovation, the step to business is not far at all. Actually, you and I work very, very interlinked and together in many areas. And it's very obvious that the sectors that you mentioned are also the sectors that we see. There are multiple sectors which actually presents opportunities for Swedish businesses, both for international expansion, but also for sourcing and R&D. And we see these sectors coming in 3 different ways. We have the traditional sectors which have been there for a long time and which are really going steady. It's, for instance, textile, plastic, and pharmaceutical. Then we have the emerging sectors, which in just the past 2-3 years we're seeing a huge influx of these, and these are coming: auto components, electronics, special chemicalities, and retail. And then, if we use our glass looking into the future, what we believe in will really boom in the coming 5-6 years: new circular materials, space, but also sports tech. Today we have, I think maybe we have mentioned it, but I can do it again. We have 260 plus Swedish companies in India operating and established there. 115 of these came in just the last 10 years. So even though we started very long time ago, the explosion is coming now. And all these sectors that both Per-Arne and I have mentioned are already there. We really see Swedish companies in all of these sectors. Something that we, relating to sectors, relating to sourcing and manufacturing, we cannot be here today without talking about making in India. I'm sure you've heard about this, the flagship program from the government of India. For the meaning is really to transform the country into a leading global manufacturing but also investment destination. It's a facilitator-based approach rather than a regulatory-based approach. So it facilitates both for international but also national companies to move beyond sourcing and actually establish part or the whole manufacturing facility in India. But also for manufacturing for India, but also for outside. It has 5 different pillars of this program, and they are all catering for an increased quality of the Indian manufacturing system, but also to secure the country's industry. But I think also one very important factor connecting to what we spoke about before, this huge young working age population needs job. Here is the chance for India to actually keep the growth of 6 to 7%. And the key is to keep these people busy. And here it is, keep them employed. There are also 27 different sectors. Can mention automotive, aviation, batteries, etc. A lot of them fits very well for our Swedish industries. There is also another initiative within this called production-linked incentive, where we have 14 different sectors that has incentives worth quite a lot of billion US dollars coming in the next 4 to 5 years. There are other supporting policies that will really aims for streamlining investment, but also registration systems and operational requirements for all the companies. I can just mention a few, like investment facilitator cell, liberalization of FDI norms, but very clearly visible for, I think, all, unifying the GST all across India. Used to be different in all states. So for Swedish businesses, the opportunity here is really to strengthen but also future-proof your supply chain by moving part or maybe the complete manufacturing capacity to India. And at the same time, using all these strategic benefits that is subsidies offered by the Indian government, like Make in India, but also the production-linked incentives. It can be very, very tricky, so if you're there and if you have questions, use really a knowledgeable partner to help you find in the woods. So we can see that large multinational companies, I'm sure you've heard of Apple, you've heard of Foxconn, etc. They have moved to India for production. And not seldom we can see that Swedish SMEs are actually suppliers to these multinational companies. So it makes very much sense for the Swedish SMEs to follow these large manufacturing companies to India. One interesting example that we have just seen in the last year is Bulten. I don't know if you've heard of them making the screws for Apple iPhone. They are now setting up their own business in India.
70 Swedish companies manufacturing in India today. 15 of those have entered in the last to set up manufacturing in the last decade. So it is an increasing inflow, exactly that what Cecilia says, of manufacturing companies to the country. Out of these 70, 88% manufacture both for the domestic market and for export. And we see that as well, that has increased. In 21, it was 75% that did the same. But companies are now looking to integrate India as much as possible as they can in the global value chains. And that's something we talk a lot about, integration and the competitiveness of India in global value chains. 52% of the companies, all companies in India, say that India has become more important in the last 2 years in their strategic sourcing plans. So the focus in India is growing.
Yeah, but all those 260 Swedish companies that we spoke about, where are they? I'm sure most of you know the map of India, and there are 6, maybe 7 economic clusters here. Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, and for some reason also Kolkata, we should mention. Delhi, NCR, National Capital Region, is of course the government center, but also we do see automotive, electronic, and even IT and software companies establishing themselves in that area. We've already heard about the financial capital of Maharashtra, Mumbai. Worth mentioning, it's actually in this region, we have no less than 78 Swedish companies, if I'm correct.
Headquartered.
So a lot of them are in Pune, where the industrial manufacturing companies established themselves in the 50s and 60s. So very important area for us Swedes. Chennai is another growing and interesting city, which is really emerging as an economic but also manufacturing cluster lately. We see a lot of automotive and electronic, but also defense companies placing themselves there. Bengaluru, the Silicon Valley of India, is the 4th largest tech hub in the world, or tech center, sorry. Looking at you, Per-Arne, sorry, I used the wrong word. They have more than 200 engineering colleges and in one city, and more than 400 R&D centers. So many global firms like Google, Microsoft, but also Volvo has their R&D center there.
So on one side, we see integration of India into global value chains. On the other side, we know that there's still some unlocking to be done in regulatory framework and also in removal of trade barriers the companies would like to see in order to really see that integration happening. And I'm giving the floor to you, Marcus Lundgren, Economic Counselor, Trade and Economic and Cultural Affairs for the Embassy, to tell us a bit about more that.
Thank you very much. As you've heard, there are many business opportunities in India. And as Team Sweden, we believe that the business opportunities outweigh the challenges for all prepared companies. But we wouldn't be doing our job as officials if we also didn't mention the challenges. And there are quite a few in India. As you see here, we have 2 subheadings. Burdensome bureaucracy is the first. That is how much time and effort Swedish companies, or all companies, I should say, because most of these barriers affect all foreign and all Indian companies. It's not unique to Swedish companies. How much time and effort companies spend on regulatory compliance. All large Swedish companies have government relations departments that deal with government contacts on union and state levels. It's a full-time job for a lot of people. India has by far the highest bound tariffs of any large economy, and also quite high applied tariffs that have been raised on average in the last 10 years. Part of the Make in India program to force companies to produce in India, tariffs are raised. But this makes it difficult for most Swedish companies to make India part of their global value chains, because they must also import in order to be able to export. India also has a penchant for local standards instead of global standards. And there are some 600 quality control orders that either have been rolled out or will be rolled out in the next few years. And if there is a quality control order, all production facilities globally must be inspected by the Bureau of Indian Standards before products can be exported to India. And the Bureau of Indian Standards does not have the capacity to quickly inspect all production facilities that want an inspection. There are quite a lot of local certification, local labeling requirements, and a court system that is quite overwhelmed. There are millions of cases waiting to be heard in Indian courts. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was an article about a divorce case that was initiated in the 80s. The husband died in 95, the wife died in 2006, and this year it was resolved by the High Court. So justice delayed is justice denied. When it comes to public procurement, India often requires local content. The goods must be produced in India in order to qualify for procurement. And sometimes even that the company is Indian-owned. For all companies, it's very difficult to acquire land in order to build factories or offices if you want to own your office. And when it comes to applications to union and state authorities, they're often quite slow. Well, you could compare it to the Swedish environmental permits. Those are also quite slow, but you don't want that as a standard. Then the second subheading is lack of predictability. This might be even more troublesome for Swedish companies because it's difficult for our subsidiaries in India to explain to the head office. It's a clash of cultures here. Quotas can often be changed almost overnight in India for how much local content must be produced. There is a problem of retroactive taxes, unheard of in Sweden. Applied tariffs can be raised overnight. And new legislation is often passed without consulting the concerned industry. So companies, that's part of the government relations department. They have to have contacts in all concerned ministries to try and hear what's coming up and try to lobby to don't have the changes destroy their business idea. There is, however, an awareness in the Indian government that this is a challenge. And in the last union budget that was passed for the year 23-24, 39,000 rules and regulations were scrapped, including 3,400 criminal statutes. So now over to the free trade agreement that will hopefully solve some of these problems. The EU started free trade negotiations in 2007 with India, but paused them in 2013 because positions were too far apart. They were restarted in 2022, partly because of geopolitical reasons with what's happening in China. And so far, in just 1 year, we've had 5 rounds of negotiations. That's the quickest the EU has ever negotiated a free trade agreement, except for with Brexit and the UK. In addition to the FTA, an investment protection agreement and a GI agreement are being negotiated in parallel. India has, as we heard, 18% of the world population, but only received 2% of EU exports. South Korea receives 50% more, even though their economy is much smaller than India. So the potential here is great. The next round will be end of October. So far, the two sides have agreed to non-discrimination in public procurement and that at least 90% of all tariff lines will have tariffs completely eliminated, and a further 5% will have them reduced. But there are still many outstanding issues. SPS, for those of you who sanitary and photosanitary requirements, that's for agricultural goods. Investment protection, services, investments, dispute settlement. And when crunch time comes at the end of negotiations, tariffs for alcohol and cars are sensitivities for India, and the free movement of people will be sensitive for the EU. The EU and India also has a Trade and Technology Council. The EU only has that with the US and India, showing the importance that EU attaches to India. With the first meeting being held on the 15th of May this year, 3 Indian ministers participated, Jaishankar, Goyal, and Chandrasekhar. And the priority plan was agreed to work on trade investments and resilient global value chains. So the next meeting will take place in around 6 months, where the working groups will present their results. Please feel free to ask me any specific questions afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus. Svenskt Näringsliv, so the Swedish Confederation for Industry, they have launched a report quite recently about the EU and India Fair Trade Agreement and an analysis on it from where a research group from both the EU and India has participated. There is a summary available for you here if you want to take that. And the report is also available in PDF, and we can send that so everyone can get it if you want to know more about the free trade agreement. So now we've spoken a lot about opportunities and now challenging, a little bit of a dampening feeling here, but so therefore it's just perfect to invite Arti Davies, the CEO for SIBC, because she's a great speaker, to talk to us about if you're a new company or if you're a company looking to India, what are some of the things that you should keep in mind and be aware of? So over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Can you hear me? Is this working?
Yeah.
Great. So we've heard a lot about why India, and you've heard, of course, some of the challenges of India, but let's put it in a larger context. On August 23rd, and I'm sure this made headlines, India was the first country to land on the South Pole of the moon. But that's not the headlines that I want to talk about. It did so for $74 billion. This is less than the budget of making the Hollywood production Interstellar about space. It's also much less than $6 billion that NASA spends on its space program. India has 114 unicorns, 30 of them developed during COVID. Cecilia mentioned the UPI, the payment interface, 10.8 billion transactions in August for a value of $180 billion. Over 2 billion COVID doses. This is India. This is disruption and technology at what we call population scale, the 10x factor. How do you work with this infrastructure? How do you engage with this collaboration mindset? We had this word in the early 2000s called jugaad. There's some of you here from India who might know this word. And that's the thinking of getting it done in the best way possible at every cost. You see this now when you look at India's very impressive statistics. But there are also challenges. More than 1 billion people. And business culture becomes critical here. Those of you who've worked with India or engaged with India know that you will never hear the word no. You'll never hear the phrase, I don't know. That makes doing business quite difficult because everyone is an expert. And that's as a result of business culture, hierarchy versus decentralization, competition versus consensus. You need to know who to speak to get your idea through. And ecosystems like the one in front of you today become a really important way to engage with that. Knowledge networking is critical. Understanding how to move forward becomes important. And I want to give you a case study in this regard to highlight this. This is also an Indian case study, so it's not a question of being Swedish, being American, being Brazilian. It's about knowing your market. Now, you heard about the conglomerate Tata Group, worth $311 billion. They had a strategy to come and engage with the Indian growing middle class. Cecilia gave you some impressive numbers. This is a huge opportunity for consumer goods. So Tata Motors, one of the verticals of the Tata Group, decided to launch the Tata Nano, the 1 lakh car, $3,000. It talked about this, and it was worried that its manufacturing sites would not be able to actually take India from 2 wheels to 4 wheels because the demand would be so high. Everyone understood this was a new face for the Indian growing middle class. The opportunity to actually not be on a bicycle or a motorcycle. Those of you who've come to India will see families on 2 wheels moving around quite happily in city centers. So the Tata Nano was their ability to go up the income ladder. In 2008, Tata Nano hit the ground, and in 2010, the manufacturing sites closed. No one was buying. And that's because no one in India wanted to be associated with cheap. The 1 lakh car, buying it because you can't afford more, no one's going to buy that. Tata closed down. Excellence and competition in what you saw in the India space mission, that is value. Cheap is not something India wants to be associated with. Perception is everything. Building your brand in India is going to be important. Knowing how to do that is engaging with the ecosystem to know who to talk to. That's what we're here for. I'm based in Sweden, and also what I would say as a last thing is that we heard it before, communication with headquarters and country offices are critical. India is moving fast. Sweden needs to know that. the officers here who make the decisions need to know how to take those decisions. And to do that, you need to come and see. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Arti. Thank you. Thank you. And lastly, we actually would like to give you the opportunity here to meet a client or a customer or actually a Swedish company who made it to India. So, very welcome. This was not rehearsed at all, so please give him some mind space.
Thank you very much. My name is Douglas Hellström. I'm from a Linköping company called Mainbase, and we develop and produce a unmanned helicopter in the 200 kilo range, so a drone, essentially. And I had a fortuitous meeting with Team Sweden and Business Sweden 3 years ago. And of this reason, I was asked this morning if I could take a couple of minutes and share my experience with Team Sweden and our business in India. Our meeting 3 years ago resulted in, during the bloom of the pandemic, a MOU with a large Indian company. And for the 2 years during the pandemic, we did some business and some development together, which resulted in, as soon as the travel restrictions were opening up somewhat, I got great help from you and Business Sweden in bringing key personnel to Sweden, and we demonstrated our system. And for 10 weeks this year, we've been in India and demonstrating our system and their capabilities in what is, as you say, a complete continent. We've been 3,000-4,000 meters up in the Himalayas, near the double of the altitude of what we can have in Sweden. We've been in the desert, experienced 45, 46, 47 degrees heat. Fortunately, not experienced that in Sweden. And we've also seen very good manufacturing plants. We will use the Make in India concept to our favor. We don't produce everything here in Linköping, but we have final assembly, so we could quite easily move some of the manufacturing, or more than 50%, which is required in this case, to the our Indian business partner. And they have beautiful manufacturing facilities. I visited a CNC manufacturing plant with 150 machines, and it was more tidy than the room we are in now. So I'm fully confident in moving production there. We've had a lot of help from Business Sweden. The memorandum of understanding from the beginning wouldn't be able without Team Sweden and Business Sweden, especially not signing documents with an Indian company that we have never physically met during the pandemic via Teams. I think that is outstanding. It would never have happened without your help. And we've also overcome quite a lot of the difficulties, both in regards of bureaucracy and everything in regards of the different cultures in doing business. Some examples regarding the bureaucracy is, if I send, as a Swede, if I send an invoice for $1, I expect to receive $1. That is not the case. I receive 90 cents because 10% is deducted in Indian taxes that I am to pay. And with a bilateral agreement between the governments of India and Sweden, I can get it deducted from Sweden. But in order to do that, the company has to have an Indian tax account. And in order to apply for that, I have to have a personal tax account, which has to be set up by a lawyer and then has to be validated with a physical key. So that is a process in, well, it would have been a year, but with the help of Team Sweden and Business Sweden, it took only a couple of weeks. I'm certain I still wouldn't have gotten paid for the invoices without your help. So what I can say is, if you're looking for business, if you're wanting to try and investigate if any business opportunities in India, make the contact with Team Sweden. We had great experiences. My only regret is we didn't do it sooner and we didn't have more cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for... I did not pay him to say this. Please note that. But thank you so much. So, time is running up and I will be very quick. I want you to leave you with a few takeaways from this. We've talked about Make in India. We've heard live case about Make in India. So leverage on that, both for the domestic but also for the global market. Second thing, really keep track of the growth sectors of India. We spoke about the emerging ones. We spoke about special chemicals, retail, electronics, which is happening right now. We spoke about the coming ones as well, space, sports tech, and circular material. Sustainability, we quickly touch upon that. There are huge things, a huge wave happening in the green transition in India. Also tap into that. Make sure that you bring the best sustainable solution when you come to India. And lastly, this demographic change that we will see is really going to be the engine for the growth of India to be continuously happening.
So we think, as we started off, we say it in the end, it's time for India. Now our time here has run out. We are 5 minutes above, but we thank you so much, all of you that have come here, taken time out from your schedules and busy day to join us for this session. We want to thank, of course, the Science Park, Fredrik and Aaron, for your help, support. Thank you for hosting us here. And we are now here, staying back for questions and discussions. So grab any one of us for anything you would like to talk about that comes up after this time or something that you look forward to. But thank you so much all for coming and joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.